Greetings, everyone. It's so good to see you once again at Sunday School. Again, we're so glad you're here. And let's just kind of warm up with adding another disciple to our 12 disciple list. And let's take Bartholomew. That was the one that was said last in our song. And it says, "Hello, my name is Bartholomew, probably known as Nathaniel. I am known for doubting whether any good thing could come out of Nazareth." That's from John 1, the book in John 1. So here's Bartholomew right there, so we'll put it there, and we'll just keep adding on. We're not going to sing it today. We're going to warm up with the song we learned last week. And the last week we learned a song about Zacchaeus, and that he was a short little man, but he wanted to see Jesus. And the only way he could see Jesus, to be able to see over that crowd and around that crowd and above the crowd, was to climb up in a tree. And do you remember the name of that tree? Yeah, it's a sycamore tree. So he climbed up to a sycamore tree and was able to see Jesus, and Jesus was able to see him. Now the people, remember we said, didn't really like Zacchaeus because he was a tax collector. We all pay our taxes. But he was an unfair tax collector. He taxed the people more than he should have. He took the extra amount of money and kept it for himself. So that wasn't a good thing. So his life changes when he sees Jesus. So let's warm up with Zacchaeus. Off we go. Use your hands and help us. Zacchaeus was a wee little man was he. He climbed up in a sycamore tree for the Lord he wanted to see. And as the Savior passed that way, he looked up in the tree. And he said, "Zacchaeus, you've come down. For I'm going to your house today. Good job. All right. It does tell the story. And then after he met Jesus at his house, he changed his ways and was a fair person after that. So, okay, now we're going to have another song. And this song tells about the story we had last week, which was the wise man who built his house upon the rock, and the foolish man. Here, wise man, we're going to point to our head, because he thinks he knows how to make good decisions. And then the foolish man, we're just going to go, no, he made a wrong choice there. He built his house on sand. And of course, it is not steady. All right. And the rain will come down. The flood will come up. The house on the rock will stand. But the house on the sand will smash. And we're going to slap our hands and go smash. Okay, let's try it. Ready? The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. And the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood firm. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up, and the house on the sand went smashed. Ooh, big crash. Right, all right, good job. All right, we're just gonna move that over there and out of the way. Good job. Well, we're glad that those are fun songs and they retold our story, and that's for sure. Now, think about your feet. Where do your feet like to walk? I guess I could say, where do you like to walk? But where do your feet like to walk? Talk to your family. might have said on the sidewalk. That's a safe place. Maybe in the street. And sometimes I go in the street because I think it's not as many bumps in the sidewalk. Sometimes it's a smoother ride if it's in the neighborhood and there's not any cars coming. All right. Grass. Oh, that would be great, especially in bare feet, right? And what about this? Our floor. Our floor is a great place to be. Well, do you think your feet would like to walk on water? Okay, well, today someone in our story is going to walk on water. And that's right, he's walking on water, okay? Our story takes place, it's kind of interesting, right after Jesus and the disciples fed the 5,000. And that story that we had studied, they had fed all the people, and that was 5,000 and more, and it was time for them to go. So Jesus wanted to say goodbye to them and send them on their way, and he told the disciples, you need to get into the boat and sail across the lake, and I'll meet you there later. Now, it was kind of after eating and everything. It wasn't dark or anything yet, but the disciples, of course, showed respect, of course, and they followed exactly what Jesus said to do. And Jesus bade the people goodbye and sent them on their way and went to spend a little time with God by praying. So that's how our story starts. So let's get our Sparks Story Bible, and we'll look up our story, and it is called Walking on Water. The disciples were just waking up on their boat. That's because it was a long, long sailing ride across the lake, and it got dark and they got very sleepy. After all, they fed 5,000, and so they were very tired. So they woke up on their boat. They had been out on the water all night. Yawn, stretch. It was so early, the sun wasn't even up yet. Andrew, one of our disciples, rubbed his eyes and he looked into the fog. Hey, he whispered, do you see what I see? Ooh, it's a ghost, James cried out in fear. The disciples were shaking in their sandals. They were terrified. Through the fog, they could see the outline of a person walking on the water. It was Jesus. Don't be afraid, it's just me, Jesus said. He waved a friendly hello. If it's really you, Jesus, tell me to walk on the water, Peter said bravely. Now, whenever it's really foggy out, it's very hard to see. And that's what the disciples were discovering. They couldn't quite tell for sure it was Jesus. Well, Jesus says, okay, he shrugged, come on out, Peter. The water is fine. Gulp. Peter swallowed hard. He placed one foot onto the water. Plop. It didn't go under. He tried the other foot. Plop. He was standing. He kept his eyes glued on Jesus as he took a few careful steps. He walked faster and faster. Splish, splash. Only his feet were getting wet. Jesus smiled at him. Peter felt the wind blowing on his face. He took his eyes off Jesus and looked up at the dark clouds. He felt afraid. Uh-oh, his ankles were wet. Uh-oh, his knees were wet. Uh-oh, Peter was sinking. Help me, Jesus, save me, he yelled. Jesus reached out his hand and pulled Peter out of the sea. Why did you stop looking at me? Jesus asked, holding tightly to his friend. Don't you trust me? The wind stopped. They climbed into the boat, full of cheering disciples. Hooray! This proves it, they said. You really are the Son of God. From that day on, the disciples were excited to tell everyone they met about the power of Jesus. And that's our story in our Sparks Bible. Okay, wow. Well, why were they scared when they first saw Jesus on the water? Why were they scared? Do you remember what they thought? If you said they thought he was a ghost, you're right. They thought he was a ghost. Who else could it have been? They could not see well. Well, who else besides Jesus walked or took some steps on the water? Do you remember which disciple that was? Yeah, it was Peter, right there. Simon Peter, right. Peter did. Now, when Peter began to sink in the water, was it because, now just the yes, put yes up if you agree with this, or maybe you don't agree. Was it because he had just had lunch and he was full and he started to sink? We didn't talk about lunch. We talked about lunch before the story at the 5,000. Or was it when he took his eyes off of Jesus? Yeah, that's when it was, when he took his eyes off of Jesus. Now, how did the other disciples feel when Peter got back in the boat? Let me see. How did they feel? Were they still scared? I look back in our story and I find the place. They climbed into the boat full of cheering disciples. Hooray! They were what? Excited. Yes, they were so excited and so celebrating that they made it back into the boat. Well, this story shows us how special Jesus is. He can walk on water, and he helped Peter take some steps on water too, didn't he? Say, well, the story is from the Gospel of Matthew. And Matthew, in that story, you can look it up in your Bible at home. It will tell the same story again, very, very complete, right? And the word gospel means good news. Now, we have a monthly newsletter that comes out to our parents and your parents and all the people at Emanuel that tells all the things that are happening here at Emanuel, and it's called the Good News. Well, if gospel means good news, what's the good news in this story? What was the good news that happened in this story? Well, Peter learned, he had to keep his eyes on Jesus, right? Or else he was going to sink. He can keep his eyes. Now, we can keep our eyes on Jesus too, and we can keep our eyes on Jesus by reading our Bible, by praying, by just loving other people. All those things and many more help us keep our eyes on Jesus. Now, today we are going to be scientists. You'll see all this water over here. This is this blue water. And it said that the disciples got in the boat and went across the lake. This is our lake, okay? So we're going to be scientists and we're going to explore what we call surface tension and water. Now, surface tension is kind of with water. If you have a cup of water, surface tension is that sticky skin that goes across the top. Can't really see it, but it is there, and we're going to try to show it in some ways today. And can you think of it and the surface tension allows us to have things that will float, okay? So can you think of things that will float? Just share with your family and friends. What kinds of things float besides what the disciples were in? Which was a boat, right? Yeah, right. Okay, I think you probably have a lot of good ideas. I wish I could hear them. All right, yeah, there are a lot of things. I mean, a leaf can fall off a tree and be floating on there. I've seen a duck float too, right? Well, there's something here. Let me show you this picture. This is something that can float too. And it is, I'll hold it a little closer and maybe you can see a close-up picture of it. A water lily floats because it doesn't weigh very much. And it's very flat. It actually is resting on the surface tension of the water. And so we're going to do some experiments to learn more about surface tension and water, okay? So let's be scientists. So I'm going to move this chair over a little bit. Now, let me tell you one thing. With experiments, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. But all these things we're going to do today are things that you can do at home and see with a closer eye. We're going to try to get close enough that you can see, but just think of how it's done and you can try it at home with your parents' help, of course. Okay, the first one you'll see we have a tray with some water. Okay, in the water here is some water. Actually, we'll put a little more water in there just so you can see. You can't really see the water, it's not really colored, but it's just there, okay? So our first one's with bubbles. And we're going to take a bubble blower. I'm going to just get it out right here. And we're going to blow the bubbles. Let me just move this over a little bit more onto the water and see what happens. Go back in. Okay. Sometimes a lot come out. Sometimes a few come out. Do one more time, and then they start to pop. Now, as you look at the bubbles, now this one is kind of going together, and now they're going to pop after a while, but they were resting on the surface tension. Without the surface tension, those bubbles would have popped right away, like when it landed on the table here. So that's just one example. They were able to stay because of that sticky little layer that's covering across the area. Now our next one, you're going to see a cup. And this cup of water is filled clear to the rim. It's clear to the rim of the glass, which is the very top. I try to get as close without it spilling over. Now, I'm going to take an eyedropper, I'm going to go into the water here, and I'm going to put another drop in there. Now, it is really to the top, and I'm hoping you can see this. And I'm going to see how many drops can I get in there. I have to be gentle and go carefully so I can see. I'm trying not to break the surface tension and see if it will that skin will keep holding together. Okay? And when you look at your glass, or this glass, you need to get down to the side so you see the very top. Looking down from the top, you can't tell whether the surface tension is stretching and getting taller. So I'm going to come a little more. I'm going to go and tell, don't know how many drops that is, until the glass cannot take any more unless it falls over. Now you'll notice a little piece of paper underneath of both these containers. That's because the table was not exactly straight. Now I can see that's way at the edge. Now I'm going to let you look, and I'm trying to get it going even more. Now, I didn't think I could get one more drop in here because it was so full. This glass was so full. But because those water molecules are attracted together, they like to stick together, they're letting me add more water. I'm going to keep on going until I see the first. Wow. Now, what shows me that it's way over the edge is instead of being flat across with the water, just straight across, there's going to be a little bit of a dome. A little dome, because that surface tension is trying to hold on before it's broken. Pretty soon it won't be able to take any more water because it's stretched as far as it can go. Okay, I think we're really about there. Now, if you try it at home, see how many drops you can put in. I can't even believe you can go that far. Okay, I'm going to go really a little bit more, a little bit more, and I know that's hard to see that far away. Well, I don't want to bump the table because that would definitely make it fall over the edge. Wow. Okay. It's amazing that rim can take this much water. Keep on going a little bit more. And we'll try to put a little close-up picture for you. Okay, I think we'll stop there, and then you can go on at home. Now, our next experiment is going to test water tension by dropping a penny in there. And in this container are pennies. Now, pennies are kind of heavy, and they take up space. So every time I put a penny in there, it's going to make the water raise. And so we're just going to go ahead and see. I'm not going to drop it from here because that definitely would break it. Okay, I'm going to put it in the side. There goes 1, 2, and I'm just going to go quickly, put some more, and I'm going to see if I can build the water tension higher. So that stretchy thing, kind of like with our other one, and see how many pennies it could take. Maybe it needs more than even this. And I tried to fill it way to the top, and one edge was, because of the table not being exactly straight. And when you put it in, if you do it at home, put it in with the edge of the penny first. Oops, I spilled a little bit over there, huh? Splashed. Okay, and then you're gonna fill it up and see if it makes that dome. Okay, in a little bit, we'll show you a closer up picture of what it would do. Got to be careful if they slip out of my hand. And boy, there's lots on the bottom there. It's growing higher. And remember, when you look at it, you've got to look down to the side, okay? And do it. Okay, I'm going to keep on going a little bit more, and then we'll let you finish that up at home too. Kind of fun to see. Remember, surface tension is the sticky skin going across the top of water. And I think, oh wow, I'm really going to town. So okay, now I will come back and I'll show you a closer picture later. Now, here's the next thing I want you to try at home. I want you to get just a flat little surface, like a container like this. I'll come a little closer here. And I want you to, let's see if you can add some water to the bottom. This is something to do at home. And then I want you to, I'll just set it over here for now because I don't want to spill. I have to get, there's a couple little grooves in there, so I'm going to need to fill that so it doesn't spill. Then I want you to take some pepper. Now, with the pepper, don't get too close because you'll start sneezing. I want you to just shake pepper all across the top, and you will see that the pepper is floating, okay? Now, when you have the pepper right like that on the top, I want you to take your index finger, your pointer, and just tap it in a little tiny bit of your dish soap. So you can put some on the counter and just tap it, and then take your finger and go to the middle. I don't have any soap on my hand, so it's not gonna happen because I want you to discover that at home. And you're going to touch the middle. And then I want you to tell us what happened. because the soap will break the surface tension. So what will happen to that pepper? So you that'll be your project for this week. Not a paper, but just that experiment or any of them. So guess what, guys? You are scientists. You have good job of being a scientist and trying different things. And in our story, Jesus was walking on water. Well, Peter became frightened and he began to sink in the water, right? He definitely broke the surface tension because number one, his body weight would be too much. But we can keep our eyes on Jesus like Peter did at the beginning, by doing different things, by sticking with Jesus, by trusting in him and allowing him to help us and keep us on the right path. So we can go about our day really confident because we know Jesus is always walking with us. And if we stick together like those molecules to Jesus, we will have that guidance that we need. So great job, everyone. We're so just so glad that you're able to come. So let's close with prayer. And then this time, let's have you help us with a prayer. So if I say, we can, I want you to say, keep our eyes on Jesus. So let's try that. Keep our eyes on Jesus. Okay, so let's close with prayer. Okay, ready? Dear God, thank you for Jesus who walked on water. We can, everyone, keep our eyes on Jesus. Thank you for Peter who asked Jesus to help him. We can keep our eyes on Jesus. Thank you for all the ways you help us, Lord. We can keep our eyes on Jesus. All right. Have a wonderful week, and just remember to keep your eyes on Jesus. Thanks so much. Have fun with your experiments. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.